It's the humans that are the best at what they do that will be able to leverage AI the best. Because if you're a great product leader, you have the context, no one doesn't, and you know how to get it to innovate. If you're a great marketer now, you have the context that others won't to help it innovate. Embrace.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome, episode numero 5. We actually, next month, we're going to Mexico City for spring break.
Ooh.
I'm pumped, man. I just hear the best things.
Spring break 2025.
Yeah, let's go. Family trip to Mexico City. Yeah. They do have like a ridiculous amount of Michelin star restaurants.
Food in Mexico City is amazing.
I'm pumped. I'm so pumped,
Have
man.
You've been?
No, never.
Oh,
that's
man.
my point.
Oh,
I'm like, I
goodness
gotta go.
All right, I got a list for you. We love Mexico City.
Oh, dude, that makes me very happy.
Okay.
All right, so I'll get the list from you. Man, we got the Super Bowl coming up. Valentine's Day, too, for everybody. Yep. So shout out to...
I'm already using ChatGPT for all the love notes.
That's right, little love notes. Man, did ChatGPT help me on Christmas?
Yeah?
Man, it came, I mean, let's be honest, I don't know if my wife listens or not. Like, maybe she does. It came up with this idea, like, what would be a great present for my kids, here are the ages of my kids, for my wife. So listen to this. So, mommy-daughter photo shoot. Fucking no-brainer. Time capsule for your son and your mom for his high school graduation.
My goodness.
I'm like, done.
Okay.
Done.
Yep.
Like, these are the best ideas. Oh, if she has a garden, paint a workbench for her for the garden.
I'm melting right now.
All of these have been purchased.
Oh my God.
All of those were purchased.
Let's go.
Home runs.
Let's go.
So that was fantastic. So last week's, or a few weeks ago episode, why generic AI is not always your best friend and how easy it is to get started with custom GPTs. So hopefully everyone got a lot of value out of that. And, today, look, we're going to talk about not just, our normal sales topics. We're actually going to talk about marketing and product teams and how they should be thinking about generative AI and what are some of the trends that we think it means for them and obviously the impact on sales, right? So we're always going to try to bring it home to, how this is going to impact you. But if you're a marketer, CEO, entrepreneur, product manager, et cetera, I think you're going to, forward this over if you're not to your marketing or product team, because I think this episode is going to give them, a ton of kind of interesting insights into how teams are and can be using generative AI. So should be a good one. All right, KD, as usual, every week every episode, we've got a DM question of the week. And it says, I'm a small business owner and I'm curious, how can I use generative AI to write my website copy and product descriptions? I'm not sure where to start. And I think if you're in sales, you can think about what's the application for you. Maybe you want it to help you write a pitch or whatever it is. But how would you answer this small business owner?
So I love this. I've sold SMB for the last 7-8 years now. So I love this space. The easiest way to get started is to find websites you like. So find websites that you like. What are other ones in your space, in your industry, or outside your industry, but like top performing companies or website, and take theirs as inspiration. You can feed that into ChatGPT. So I want you to review these websites, right? So get some context. Then from there, saying, I would like to write my website modeling very similar copy, style, spacing, etc. Here's what I do. Right? And then give your website. But then before you ask it to write the copy, ask it to, now, I would like you to ask me a few more questions to get a better idea of what I do and who I sell to before you write the copy. So I'd start there, and then it's going to start to spit everything out. And then you gave this tip a few episodes ago, and I was like, I had never thought about that, of like telling it to like try a little bit harder.
Yeah.
I thought that was so clever, of like, okay, that's good. Now try a little bit harder to really connect with my audience XYZ. But that would be the easiest. Give it websites that you do like. Ask it to interview you a bit more about your customer, who you serve, why you do what you do. Get the website copy, and then from there, ask it to try a little bit harder, connect a little bit more emotionally with maybe who you sell to or whatever your service is, and boom, you'll have an amazing website. That's
right. And I think on the product descriptions, you take a very, very similar approach, right? If you're trying to get it to talk about the product, great. So here's what this thing does, make it really interesting for a CFO, make it really interesting for a COO. Do this. And what I always do, I do this all the time. We use ChatGPT for some of the show notes here. It's like, make it more provocative.
There you go.
Make it more this. Make it more this. I mean, I constantly, I'll ask ChatGPT for concepts, and I'm like, give me 3 complete wild cards that were like so. Because by the way, ChatGPT's version of provocative is like PG to PG-13, somewhere in there. So you kind of got to push it a little bit. Like, nah, look, I understand those are the safe, and that's what I'll do. Like those sound like safe descriptions. Give me a radically persuasive flavor of this too. And yeah, I can just do it for you.
Yeah, one of my favorites to add when I'm doing marketing copy is to give it marketers I respect. So some of the best copywriters of all time, right? The Dan Kennedys, the Eben Pagans, the Ryan Dices of the world, Gary Halbert, and say, I want you to be inspired by Gary Halbert and Dan Kennedy when you write this. And it changes the whole dynamic. So go give it good copywriters to imitate, and it'll run with it.
That's right. And so I think a lot of this is you're a small business owner or anyone, just make sure that you're pushing it. You don't need to talk to it like Google. You need to be specific. You need to say exactly what you want and say it different ways and try it different ways. And and then eventually you start to learn these little hacks of like how to push it. So,
but keep it going, small business owner. Keep going. You're already ahead of the game if you're thinking about it this way.
I love that. So, all right, man, let's jump into it. Talk a little marketing, talk a little product here. I think generative AI is certainly coming for some roles in marketing. And look, for me, man, kind of the first application I see for a lot of, I call it AI curious companies, is around copywriting and tone matching. I did a talk back in October last year, and okay, have any of you created custom GPTs? Marketer raises her hand. She's like, yeah, we fed it 35 of our blog posts to do tone. And she's like, it's awesome. So like, how much of marketing, look, we talked about sales enablement too, a few episodes ago. How much of marketing in the future do we think Gen AI can either augment or replace? Because look, think about it. We're already using it to design these customized experiences. You talked about the website copy, optimize in real time. So what's the limit here?
Ooh, boy.
And I'm not going to say what's the limit in 3 years, because who the hell knows?
Yeah.
But what's the limit like in 2025?
So in 2025, I think people are actually going to be very surprised how high the limit is. And the reason for this is because marketers historically are significantly better testers than sales teams.
Agreed.
It's easier to test in marketing. And so what they have access to data-wise is unreal, right? From click tracking to eyeball tracking to click-through rates to scroll time, bounce. They've split tested 5 different headlines. So I actually think it's easier, I'll say in quotes, to actually now extrapolate that, because the data is so much more specific and it involves data and human behavior. Where do people look on the website? Where do they stop? Well, if I built an app that said, okay, where do people stop scrolling? They stop scrolling here. Well, now I know I need to put some sort of hook there that would keep people going, right? The ability to create custom potential websites. We're doing all this inbound, outbound stuff right now. So content-wise, it's already really, really there.
And so do you think of it as content, the people that are content or SEO, blog, is it, we still need those people, but, productivity is going to be, 3x.
Oh, absolutely. Productivity. And you actually mentioned it on an earlier episode of not only does AI let you do more, but if you're doing it right, it allows you to do more and better.
Yeah.
Right. Where it's I can learn from the best out there and create some of this copy. I still think for 2025, it still needs human oversight.
Totally.
For sure. It needs recycling for sure. There's so many examples of companies that are like, oh, SEO, so they made all these AI generated content, and it ranked them early, and then it got
smashed by Google
down and punished. Don't do that. Don't just go and generate 3,000 articles and think you're good. We still need human oversight there. But the content can and should be better. It should be able to do more tailored content to your personas, because that's where I think most companies, at least with blog content, it's always very generic. Whereas if you had a blog, whatever, say you sold to sellers and sales leaders and marketers, you could do different types of content for each
really
one
quickly,
of them super quickly, and then take the data. What are people downloading? Okay, splinter that. Okay, that one's not landing. Okay, splinter that. And we can actually now splinter the content, which I also think is going to be a very, very big use case. And, I think I'll throw this one back to you around creativity. People are humans are creative. AI is not. I don't know if I agree with that.
I mean, would I have came up with a time capsule for my son to create with my wife to open together 8 years later? No. And it is a ridiculously good idea.
That's so great.
Yeah, I think I think that's a really good call on the marketing side. Again, I think the brand strategy, the creative, the different takes to also just brainstorm and ideate, around different campaign. Hey, campaigns, here's our highest performing things. This is what's worked. This is what hasn't worked. Here's the data. If you want to create a custom GPT, you could. But, what are 2 or 3 break the bank ideas that can make all of this better? Now get wilder, get more creative. Now give me this. I mean, we literally created a new product for this year called, we started to talk about, hey, here's the goals for our company. This is our goals for our consulting. Here's some of the challenges that we're having. And it's like, give me an idea for a new product, like how to better package. And it's like, push. I was like, more. Like, that's not provocative enough. Like, that will resonate with PEs, and just push. And we've created a whole new product called Revenue Health as a Service, which is just, I didn't come up with RHAS. I mean, they came up with RHAS, Revenue Health as a Service. And I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly what we've been trying to think about, is like this idea that you need to, on a quarterly basis, be looking at these kind of key 5 metrics and constantly deploying fixes to your sales org. And it's resonating. And so to me, if you're a marketer, there's no shame in this.
No, I would be leaning into this heavily. And again, as I was saying, the opener, marketers have so much more and better data than sellers do. If I know what my top keyword searches are, I can do a lot of that from a marketing standpoint, from ads to content to videos to images to ebooks to whatever else. Like, there's so much that can be done with that. And this will be for a whole nother episode, but even with where outbound is going, like, outbound's almost turning into like an outbound marketing channel.
Oh, for most people it is. It's like, we've had people that, we're doing all these, sales loft outreach implementations, and they really just want to use it like HubSpot. And I'm like, no. Like, well, the sales reps are incentivized to just close it. And you're like, well, you should actually be using your marketing automation platform for that. And I saw here, like, Coca-Cola, for example, like, they're already using AI for automating ad creation, right? Here's the data. Here's what's working. Social media content.
That commercial, actually, it was the first time I've seen it where it actually said created with real, I think it was like real AI or real magic AI. Like, it was actually.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah, actually said it in the commercial. Like, it was in the bottom, and then it was like how they like wrapped up the commercial. I saw it for the first time ever. I was like, ooh, is that how it's gonna have to be? Do we have to say that it was created with?
Maybe.
But the commercial was pretty dang good, and you're like, whoa. So I think marketers, because they have so much data that they can leverage around what I love about marketing. If I wasn't in sales, I'd be in marketing.
Yeah, me too.
I would be there. Is they have data on what humans do when not observed. Sellers, we only get the observation. What you said to me while I'm there. Marketers know what people are actually searching for. Marketers know what people are actually reading. Marketers know whether a smiling face or a sad face drives more. Marketers know 3 products versus 2 like, they're testing everything. I think if you are doing we talk about context a lot here. Marketers that have the context, oh my God, they can do so much with this.
Yeah, I think if I think about marketing, where I think it's going to be interesting is your opinion-based marketers. You're like, well, your content has to have that. Again, you talked about the enemy of getting shit done is trying to be great, and perfection. There's like 50 versions of that. I see a lot of marketers where they're so focused on this and the brand guidelines and the this and the that, and it's like, why are you focusing on these things? Like, you should be focused on learning, using data, and again, making more data-based decisions, not trying to feel like your opinion should be the guiding light. And I think, not that sales leaders have the same problem, but I feel like that's the danger for a lot of marketers. If you look yourself in the mirror, are you the kind of marketer who is like, this all makes sense, but the human needs to do that? And that's, Coca-Cola is a good example. It's like they have a creative team that remains for like oversight and direction. So we're not talking about eliminating this, but again, like the quality of production, how many things you can put out, the creativity pieces, it's just better. The combo is just better.
Yeah. And that's what we talked about in actually the last episode, the difference between like custom and generic. That's why Coca-Cola still has the team over it, is it can prompt all day long, like, here's what we want the commercial to be. Then you're going to get version 1. world-class marketers will know what to say back to say, okay, no, she needs to be smiling. We actually want a better blend between this, that, and the other, and then it goes off and does
That's right.
So it's still that context coming from humans in 2025, but oh boy, 2026, 2027, like, because we've talked about this is actually when we're doing the webinar series of like content. Like if you have a content team, AI is going to get pretty dang close to being able to do that by the end of 2025 of like a content focused marketing team. And the ones that are good at it, they'll be able to leverage it, but it's absolutely going to knock those things out, from ebooks to downloads to web pages to blog articles to ad creation. Like all that is content backed by there'd be millions of data points for context. That's quick iterations all day long. It can do it.
Yeah, and then again, like you can create custom GPTs to quickly get it to know your tone much faster, or you can think about creating it for each of your executives has their own custom GPT for creating content based on their preferences. So I think there's just a lot of applications here for people that are trying to think about how to supercharge marketing. Dude, 5 years from now, you still have lots of humans, but as we start to blend context with data and the ability where generative AI it can't really look at all the data together and go deep on the inferences. Like it's okay at it right now, but 5 years from now, if this is where we're at, like the ability to look at the context that it's been given, the historical trends, and then making more and more recommendations based on improved context that you're giving it as the marketer, and utilizing the data in real time to not make, well, if you talk 12% less, you'll do this. I mean, that we're going to get there. And so as you as a marketer, it's interesting. You talked about hiring in the last episode, a role for GTM. I think every marketing person should hire that too, of like, hey, what are the custom GPTs we should be creating? How can we augment, Jake's job to do more? That role for me is a no-brainer for.
Yeah, and I wish I knew what to call this role, but like it is, because also for me as the CRO, this role is touching marketing too, right? Because marketing roles to me, CS roles to me, sales roles to me, this marketing is GTM too.
Yeah,
this role is looking there as well and going, okay, what are we learning from marketing? Even like I talked about this a long time ago of like how I leverage inbound for outbound, right? So when I'm building an outbound motion, the first place I look is the inbound side. If we have an inbound motion at all, it's like, okay, what are the highest click-through ads? What are the short form and long tail keywords?
Makes sense.
What are our most viewed blog pages? What are our, and I'm using that to craft my outbound strategy. If I know what people are searching for, that makes a really good subject line or first sentence. And if I know what our highest performing headlines are on ads, I know that makes a really good hook within the email. And if I know what personas are inbounding the most on our website, I know who to target outbound. So I leverage inbound heavily to build an outbound motion. Now I can do that all together.
Right.
Which is just going to be,
and you can use it to improve inbound once you see the nuance. And by the way, I don't think very many sales and marketing teams are doing any of this at all.
Get on my level.
I think it's like both can inform both. How many marketing teams are going and looking at the outbound sequence performance and saying like, oh, okay, that hit, and then vice versa. How many SDR leaders are going? So I love that idea. Let's talk product, man. Let's talk about the influence on product team. Can AI, innovate faster than a human in products, and, I see, like you mentioned this, I can see where people are clicking. I can see where they're scrolling. I can do all those things. And, obviously, look, I think most product teams are doing a flavor of that. But like, isn't there a world where it's doing a ton of the heavy lifting, where it's like, let me automate, like, this is how people are using your application, for example. Like they did this. Nobody is looking at this feature. Like nobody is doing this, and this. So like,
so this one, and anyone that's worked with me knows like I'm a word stickler. So I'm gonna call out a word in this question, and I think it might change the direction. Do I believe it will innovate faster than a human product team? I don't yet, because even the examples you gave were reactive. To me, innovation is creating things that have not been done before. I think it can build faster, potentially, than a human.
Yeah, it'll optimize what's known.
I think it can
faster.
Optimize okay, no one's using I think it can, but innovate, I don't think next year it's going to innovate faster than a human team.
Can it use the creativity though? Couldn't it? I mean, can if you think about the combo of the two, here's what's working. Man, what are some things that we could build, create or innovate that could improve, that we should be adding to our product roadmap that we're not thinking about?
Yeah. So that's where, if we listen to customers, like that's what I want to use it for, even with my own teams, is like go to product and say, here's what customers are saying about the product. Here's what they're saying on calls where they're not moving forward, where they're saying, like, one of the things I love to look for in transcripts is the phrase, if you just had, if you just could, if you were just able to. I love to find that in transcripts because that's customers telling us. If you could just connect to X, Y, and Z, a human still would have to tell AI to look for those things. I feel like. So the nuance here is I don't know if it will innovate faster, but do I believe it can suggest? I do. Do I believe it can actually make changes if I tell it what to look for? Hey, if no one's doing X, Y, and Z,
let me know.
Yeah. I absolutely think it can do that. I don't know on the new opportunities. I'm curious your take there of like actually without someone telling it. Obviously, if I tell it to, if I say, hey, what are some ways, you're so good at asking it questions I wouldn't even think to ask about. I was like, hey, we're struggling in these areas. We deal with these people. I want to create a new product over here. That is innovation that you caused. You know what I'm saying? Like you led the innovation from there. What was it? BHAS or something? RHAS.
Revenue Health as a Service.
Right. It created it, but you let it there through the questions. So I'm curious your take on its ability to create opportunities versus just identify places that are lacking.
Well, I mean, I think you could create a custom GPT, and you told it its job was to be challenging and to be be provocative and to be these things. I think you could take the best parts of brainstorming and whiteboarding, and I think hypothetically, not 100%. But again, I think that's kind of my thought on this question is I think a lot like marketing. I think there's going to be a layer of product, right? Because also, you know how this is. Sometimes people think they want to whatever, and a lot of people are like, oh, well, if you did this, and people, I mean, you probably still wouldn't, churn or you wouldn't buy more. So I think there's a human in the loop, but I think we could get there. I think it could help to innovate and like help with creativity. And you could I think you could create a custom GPT maybe that would help innovate. Maybe.
Yeah. Product leaders, I'd be curious to hear from y'all on this because there's like, as a GTM leader, like we're thinking about this all day, like how to do these things. I'd be curious with that word innovate, like what y'all think it can or can't do around innovation. Because I do think if you give it the prompts, it could help you do those things, but I'm not sure yet where that will go because we're already seeing product headcount is shrinking. Product job ads are shrinking. Like AI is showing up a lot here on the product side in terms of, some of the AI agents and the creation. And you actually just mentioned something there very interesting. This is my biggest fear, by the way. We'll just pull it all open here around AI. Is at what point do I stop buying things because I can build it internally? Right. And so you mentioned right now, customers say, if you had this feature, I would stay. At what point is it so easy to do some of this that I wake up and I'm working on this right now. We're still early, but it's like, God, I just need an agent that's going to inspect pipeline the way I would inspect pipeline, look for these things, bubble this up, X, Y, Z. And instead of Googling product deal management inspection tool, I build it.
Oh, now that'll happen.
You know what? This is my
for a lot
biggest,
of niche. If you're a niche GTM or a niche software that solves one specific thing, that's not providing any type of proprietary insights.
It's my biggest I don't knows and what ifs around sales and AI over the next 5 years is what happens when teams can build their own internal tools, and what does that look like when I can say, here's exactly what I need and the systems I need it to connect to and what I want it to do and what it needs to look like and who needs to have access to it and how secure it needs to be and and it goes cool. And it goes off and builds.
Or what will have to happen if you think about most of the tools you buy, they have no context. You know, when you buy Outreach, when you buy insert tool, Gong, whatever, it has no context. And so imagine if it's like, well, this is some generic thing. There's this company as a call recording API, and I can just program in all the context, it'll probably immediately be better. And again, and you have people who are these GTM support people. You know, if you guys have seen a tool called Make, for example, you know, Brian on our team isn't like a technical, you know, guru, but with Make, he's like, well, he literally, we have a dev firm that's been working on this Journey AI product, and we had our call with them on Tuesday. In 24 hours, Brian had used Make. He had inserted the custom instructions we already had 100% perplexity in Make versus ChatGPT, etc., and it immediately solved it. The dev team had taken 45 days and Brian got there in 24 hours. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think the ability to provide context with development and product development, I think is where it's at.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see, because the flip side is also true. It's like, oh, if it just had this feature, I'd stay. If that could be a 24-hour turnaround, if that could be,
yeah, exactly,
you know, whatever else there,
and I could just spin it up and great. Oh, hey, Jake, you have this feature.
Yeah, there it is. Like, because what I want, and this will sound creepy, but people will understand why I want it. I want to have, like a, y'all don't hate me for this, you'll know why I'm saying this, like an observation bot, like watching my reps work, but it's not Big Brother-ish. Chill.
I mean,
chill,
it sounds a little.
Just let me finish the thought here.
Yeah.
It's not to see what they are or aren't doing or like punish them for things. To see like, where could a tool step in and help?
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
Right? Whereas like it pops up like, hey, did you realize that there's 7 steps to close out an opportunity? I built a one-click, takes the call, and it closes it. Like, I want to observe where are there manual steps that a tool could step in to do it. That's what I want to observe. Or when I did this at my last company, we built, you know, a tax GPT, because like there were the constant questions getting asked every single day about different tax rules or whatever else. I'd love that to be in Slack of like, hey, these are the most common questions that are getting asked. So here it is. We've built this out. It's preemptive. It's right there. Like that's why I want to observe my reps more. Is because I know there's places I could build things that I just don't even know yet. Like I just don't even know what could be happening. That's why I want to observe. It's not just to catch.
No, I get it. You're like, yeah, Johnny, why didn't you say this in the discovery?
That's not what I'm going.
That's why I'm not a big fan of those like Copilot AI things that where it's like, it pops up. Oh, they mentioned Zendesk, so now Johnny, here's your battle card. Say this, and reps are like, ignore. Like, I'm not trying to do
which
that.
is crazy to me, because they should want to have those things, but the use case has always been
nobody uses them.
And it's like, why? Like, you did, like someone just mentioned the top competitor, and here's the best way to handle that competitor, but then people still don't. You know, it's
tough to do it in real time. I think a lot of that is it's just tough to be present in a conversation. I got asked this question on a podcast last week, or maybe it's a few weeks ago now, about these bots. And I said, you know what the real thing is? Train your freaking reps on what a buyer cares about and your main competitors. That's the real solution. Anyway, I digress. So product, my friends, you know, Spotify's already doing some of this stuff. Spotify's, you know, they've got large data sets, right? You know, hundreds of millions of users. You know, hey, this is working, this is not. They're doing that. They're having it evaluated. And you know, from a product standpoint, then, you know, they're sitting on top and their product team is like, okay, bad idea, good idea. So I think a lot of this is the same with marketing. You have to be using it. You have to integrate product improvement, you know, using AI, you know, generative AI, right? Like you have to have this to move faster to as opposed to, you know, yes, listen to calls, but also to your point about search. And what people are doing, it's like it's also what they're doing unobserved, you know, versus what they think they need, or you know, the executive sponsor is telling us we need this, but when you click or you look at the clicks, they aren't acting like they need that. They're actually like this. So it's this combination of like human element of like qualitative inspection coupled with the data. So you know, my feedback is, look, if you're a product leader. You have to incorporate this. You'll be able to move so much faster as a part of this.
Even at the most basic level of listening to a bunch of sales calls and product, listen to CS calls. It's not just like, what are people saying on these QBRs? What are the support tickets coming through? Let it run through the last 1,000 support tickets and see what are people complaining about your own product. Start there of like, what are people asking for? What are people saying is broken? What are those things coming through? Because there always seems to be that big communication divide between product and customer facing teams. And I think this is the easiest way to start is to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Get what the customers and the prospects are saying in front of product to let them see this and go, oh, we can do something about that. Like I was never, this was two companies ago at Patient Bot where this happened, where like there was just a constant complaint coming through. And product had no idea about it. It actually came up kind of in passing. I was talking with one of our VPs of engineering, and I was like, yeah, like someday you'll fix that. They're like, wait, what?
Right.
I was like, well, no, the customers hate this. Like it drives them nuts. It's one of the biggest reasons why people are freaking out. It's like, we could fix that. Like,
yeah, you're like, that's easy.
And they in a week.
That's right.
They just had no idea about it, you know? So it's just bridge that gap for comms.
Well, but you could, I mean, my guess is though, had they implemented AI,
right. we didn't have
yeah, exactly. They probably could have now, known that a lot faster. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, why are people? Well, it seems like consistently people click this, and then within 2 seconds they then click this to go back.
Yep.
That's something that you could see. Now. So I think that's the future there. So, all right, product and product marketing. Hopefully you all have some takeaways on some things that you can do. The answer, as usual, is you need to start to do something now. My marketers think content and, can you optimize the quality and quantity of your team? Product, how can you use it to start to make improvements faster and identify improvements faster and, maybe help a little bit with innovation, or at least get you started as a part of it. So, KD, closing thoughts, man?
I would especially for both, I'll say help it help you. Don't be afraid of it. Don't run away from it.
That's right.
Don't
get rid of the ego.
Yeah, it's gonna take my job. It's like no, like let it help your job for now, right? Give it the context. Help it innovate. I think that Christmas story is just perfect, right? You helped it innovate. Marketers, let it help you innovate. Product,
that's right.
Let it help you innovate. I think that's the biggest takeaway is you got to find a way to leverage this. But I posted about this a couple months ago now. It's like it's the humans that are the best at what they do that will be able to leverage AI the best. Because if you're a great product leader, you have the context, no one doesn't, and you know how to get it to innovate. If you're a great marketer now, you have the context that others won't to help it innovate. Embrace it and
get rid of, I think for a lot of people that struggled, I think a lot of people will fail is because of ego. Well, if I use technology, it's cheating. If I use this, and it's probably, I've made this analogy, it's probably the same thing people said when Google came about. And you're like, well, I was supposed to go to the library and I got to read a book. Like I need to go to LexisNexis and,
Good shout out. That's cool.
LexisNexis back in the day. And this is just the next iteration of how we solve problems. And so get rid of the ego. It's about getting it right, not being you're going to get credit for getting it right as a part of this. And for me, I've always been, I care about the outcome. And whatever helps me to generate the best outcome, you got to embrace it. So, man, thanks for joining us, everyone. Make sure if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, free resource, goes a little bit like nerdier on some of the topics to where if you're somebody who wants to kind of dive into more of like the latest and greatest, the newsletter is great for that. Couple other links to check out in the show notes as well too. There's some different workshops and things that we have available. So make sure go check those out. And KD, another one in the books.
Let's go.
I'm excited, man.
Wow.
All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. And we will see you all in the next episode.